I'm going to go over Hungary. I'm going to talk about the possible food crisis, talk about a possible world conflict very soon. We're going to talk about Japan, the air bases, of course, in Japan, and of course, basically collaborating with Vlad. So first off, I want to let you guys know everybody's okay. A lot of people did not get the memo. Again, we are working on a project right now, and there were several things that happened. Just to let you know, we were going to be coming back on Tuesday, I guess yesterday, but that did not happen. Over the weekend, my wife had something called periorbital conjunctivitis, which was very scary. Her eye basically blew up, and it's still really big. In fact, it's all messed up. And essentially what happened is at first we didn't know what it was. We thought it may be a sty, and then we went to the doctor. She ended up going to the ER on Friday night up until about 6 a.m. And then they told her that she needed to go and turn around at 9 a.m. after staying up all night and get the first appointment with an eye doctor. They put a special set of yellow drops in her eyes to see if there was anything in there. And apparently they found something odd, so they told her to go right to that appointment. Well, she went to that appointment and they looked at her eye. They essentially, did what they did. And apparently there are several things going on with her eye and an infection. So her eye is like blood red on one side and it's all swollen. It's hard for her to open it. And it's also been hard for her to deal with our three kids, our three little ones. Of course, our older one isn't a big deal, but our three kids under 7, those are a handful. So I've been helping out with that. So I would appreciate prayers for that. And also on Friday, we lost James Munder, or on Thursday. So there's been a lot of things going on. And then, of course, Dex has family stuff going on. And then, of course, one of my mother-in-laws came down and sick. So at the same time, my wife ended up having that all going on. Her mother was sick as well. So just to catch everybody up, we will be resuming a normal show over on Marfoogle TV tomorrow. But I did want to talk about several things that have happened recently. And again, these are very serious things, and I don't think that people realize what is actually happening. A lot of people are distracted by Depp and Heard and all of these crazy things going on with entertainment news. But they're really not paying attention. On the 22nd, there was an incredibly important meeting that went on. Of course, there was a special forum that met with a guy named Davros, and that forum essentially told the world that they were going to change the world. Right? Well, there's a lot of things that are happening right now that are lining up with a lot of the scariest things we've ever thought of. Now, we have covered, in fact, we covered the first case, the third case, the fifth case, and everything else of the monkey business. And of course, now there is a ton of stuff going on as far as that goes. And they have already treated this as it was the thing that happened 2.5 years ago in certain countries. In fact, they're actually forcing a separated time for certain people that have it. Now, why that's important is we've gone this entire time. We've never seen actions like this being taken for the many, many, many things that have kind of broken out and popped up. And now all of a sudden, they are doing it on the very first few of this business here, right? And several countries are basically looking at this, and it seems like history is repeating itself, and it seems a whole lot like we are watching the same thing happen again. I know because I followed the beginning of the Civ from the very beginning. In fact, I visited the first patient in the U.S., which was in Bellevue. And I went to that hospital. I asked people. That was the guy that supposedly they had robots going in and treating him back in the very beginning. So if you guys remember that, we actually talked about a thing like what happened over the last 2 years, 4, 5, 6 months beforehand. And that's because we looked at the data, we looked at the graphs, the different studies they were doing, and the different things that they were buying as far as the money that they were putting into preparation for some huge event. Well, guess what? History is repeating itself, and they're doing the same thing again. We're seeing millions, if not billions of dollars. We've already seen the $2 billion spent on different things that can go in and protect you from things. That was done in 2019. Just recently, the Department of Defense actually acquired more of the things that go inside you and protect you. And that is specifically for the thing that they're talking about right now with the gorillas there, right? And of course, I know that it's not a gorilla, right? So, and then of course, now they're saying that essentially all of this stuff may happen again. You have people like Tim Pool basically tweeting that he believes that we will have another forced kind of stay home type of thing happen again. And again, this is weeks after we started talking about this and saying how eerily similar it is to everything else. Now, as far as a possible food crisis, this is something that is becoming very real, and we're finding out from Foogle fam and through emails and DMs all over the country. There are a ton of different companies that are not getting food in, not getting grain in, not getting wheat, not getting a whole sorts of things. And what they are finally telling is that because of this UKR thing and Vlad, that they are basically holding this stuff hostage. I'm sure it's going to play into the next few weeks of what kind of operations they do. But again, just yesterday or today, they ended up sending heavy weaponry to UKR. So that is definitely not a good thing. Now, multiple leaders were actually visiting in Japan. You ended up having Vlad and Xi fly around their island. Now, Japan, of course, has changed a whole lot in the last few years. In fact, they're changing their own constitution. They're going to be making it so they can actually participate into conflicts that they did not start, or if they are not, of course, forcefully attacked and get into something, they want to change it to where they can just jump in or end up defending something. Now, why this is becoming more and more important to watch Japan is now we even have information and satellite images of Xi essentially practicing to hit the air bases in Asia. As far as exact, models and different replicas of the planes and everything else, we already saw that they're practicing in the desert and actually practicing hitting our naval carriers. Exact models, exact replicas of our carriers, or at least the size of them, and they're training their ballistic missiles on them. So this is not looking good, and most people are going to go up until the very last second of this happening and kind of deny that there's no writing on the wall and that it's all saber rattling, but at one point something has to snap. At the same time, the entire world is coordinating on other things behind closed doors, which may end up in a lot more closed doors, and you know what I mean. So people need to be ready. Looking at this from a prepper standpoint, people need to be ready for more events, more things to happen, more things to come, and sadly, this is where we're going. Just remember, in 8 short years, we are supposed to change our entire planet and make it to where we're not using gas, we're not using, oil, we're not doing all of this when our entire planet runs on it. Our entire planet runs on the petrodollar, which again, it looks like they are trying to replace or digitize or do something with. And these aren't theories, folks. Like this is what's happening right in front of us. And it's not even happening in slow-mo. I think it's happening so quickly in little steps every single day that most people are not paying attention to it. It's very easy to get lost in, say, the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, but at the same time, people aren't paying attention to what's happening outside of that. It is funny to me that the whole Vlad and UKR thing just basically got less and less coverage, and many people feel like, oh, it's just another, Anistan, right? They just think it's another kind of thing somewhere else, and it's never going to affect us. Meanwhile, there are other allies essentially saying, of Vlad, saying that this is going to turn into something else. You have multiple countries that surround Vlad preparing for a WW3. So it's like all day we could say, oh, it's just all for show and it's all for this. But again, remember, I think that many people think that this won't happen because no one would do that. That's just crazy. It's mutually assured destruction. It's this kind of thing. We're at the point where the entire planet is about to shift, and what takes a huge amount of power could take just a few months during a conflict. I mean, you're talking about shifting power, world powers in just a short amount of time. So again, people look at what Vlad is doing in UKR and they're saying, oh, he's failing. We don't know that. Nobody knows if he's actually failing or if he's successful, because we don't know what their goals are. We don't know if he's, doing all of it on purpose and everybody's behind closed doors high-fiving. Again, I don't think that that's the case. I think that there is something happening. There's shifts. They are trying to place people in and take people out, and some people aren't doing their job for the big guys anymore, so they're getting removed. They're getting spit on and everything else. Meanwhile, with that other business that we talked about in the beginning, that is, of course, we've talked about it now spreading. Now it's turned into, because of who's covering it, now it's a sensitive subject. Before, when we were talking about it, it's just a regular, hey, we're talking about, avian this or avian that. You can talk about that all day. Once it becomes covered by certain people, it's like, boom, now all of a sudden it's not talked about. In fact, even with the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, because people like Shapiro covered it, now all of a sudden they have actually turned that political too. And it shouldn't be. Nobody should be on this side or this side about some of these things. Like, it's just stupid. This whole thing is to keep us arguing and debating and just going in circles. Meanwhile, there are so many changes happening on a daily basis. Your life is going to be different in a matter of months, if not years. So again, people need to pay attention to what is actually happening. I'm glad that most of you are following us and following our channel and our website and everything else. Again, we strive to make sure that we are communicating good information. We strive to give you the access to that, to give you the links to everything that we talk about. That way you can judge for yourself and use your gut. Because right now, I think that using your gut is more important than any one source, because right now we can't really trust any of the sources. And I'm not saying that to be paranoid. I'm saying that because we know we're in a time of conflict, and we know throughout history, anytime during conflict, things get conflicted. Things get confused, things get spun, things get twisted. We are essentially, the entire planet, by the way, is getting their information from the Vlad and UKR situation from UKR. Every article you see, just try it. Type in 10 articles from the last 2 months, 3 months, and you will see that every single thing is coming from one source. Why? Well, you don't get the other source anymore. And it's not to say that you need that one, but we're talking about it's not coming from Swiss intelligence or U.S. intelligence or Canadian intelligence or MI5 or any of that. It is now coming directly and only from a military in a country that wasn't even ranked. I don't even think they were in the top 10. So why are we choosing them to get all of the information from? Why is it not, why are they not quoting our actual satellite photos and our everything? Well, because there's a lot going on. So just remember that everyone should be looking at this and not afraid and not making, stupid decisions. Don't go out and sell your house and live in the woods. But at this point, people need to pay attention. Also, remember that we are blessed for every day that we're here. So being afraid, that's absolutely useless. It's a waste of time. We could be, rear-ended by a Tesla on the freeway tomorrow and just disappear off this planet. We could be walking across the street and get hit. So again, something can happen to any one of us. And we need to realize that we are super blessed just to be here today. But if you are the matriarch or the patriarch of your family, that's where this comes in. Like, you should be looking at different things, have a plan, because it's better to have a plan than not to have a plan. It's that simple. As far as if you have a big family like myself, if you have multiple kids, where are you going to be if something goes down? Where are you going to be if all of a sudden there is an alert that goes through all of our cell phones and it says, hey, this is on its way? Or an alert says, hey, someone's been taken out and now we've all got to go down below or something. If that does happen, most, and I say 99% of us, are probably going to be super unprepared and not know what to do. In fact, that's the worst time. This is why people think about this stuff beforehand. This is why, if you look at the military or any, government, they're going to prepare and practice for things. Even schools, they practice for things just in case they happen. And the reason why is when it does happen, they won't sit there and run around like chickens without their heads. This is something that you should be practicing with your family. figuring out routes to get home if you can't drive, or if you can't, again, if you can't get across a body of water, how would you do that? All these kind of things matter. I know personally, I have a friend that's preparing, and they work across a ferry. They take a ferry to work and a ferry back. And if they don't, they are pretty much screwed. They cannot get home by anything else. So what they're doing is they're actually renting a space for a tiny little boat in a tiny little port. So if they need to, they can actually gain access to a boat to get home. So, I mean, things like that, maybe that's a little bit too extreme for some, but in his mind, that's something that needs to be done at this point. So you can be the judge for yourself. You can keep, saying that nothing is happening and everything's going to be okay. But again, the rest of us that have been watching this every single day and keeping track of it, we are watching it spiral out of control and go downhill. And people think that it's just going to rebound and go back to normal. I sure hope it does. But if it doesn't, if you don't have a basic plan, then you're going to be absolutely screwed. It's not to be a paranoid or, overly fearful of anything. It's more so to be responsible. It's something that shouldn't be even looked down upon. It shouldn't be taboo. It shouldn't be something that is even looked down upon. Anybody in other countries knows this. Look at Venezuela. Look at the countries that have gone through some of this crazy stuff. They didn't expect it to happen. Venezuela was one of the richest countries in the world by, of course, the money they had. But again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what countries you're in. It doesn't matter where you're watching from. Things can happen. Bad things will happen. And at this point, it's kind of like fling a coin up in the air, and it's a coin toss. So again, just to sum up, of course, they say that they are weaponizing food, and what we can confirm is that from Foogle fam all over the country, we've got tons and tons of truckers. They're saying that their loads are running dry, that they're not towing anything. And if anybody is a trucker here that is experiencing this, where instead of getting a load right away when you go to work, you're waiting for 8 hours, let us know. Put it in the chat. Leave a comment for other people so they can realize how real this is actually getting. Whether you think somebody's doing it on purpose or not, still doesn't change the fact that the food is drying up. And the pres, of course, quoted in that written speech, like, hey, food shortages aren't even here yet. They're coming. You've got Jack Dorsey saying hyperinflation is coming, ... soon. And we're seeing the beginning of it. We're already up to whatever percent. It was like 7% already, but it's going up and up and up. Gas is going up and up and up. Everything is going up and up and up. Milk, dairy, food, poultry, meat, everything. And people still think it's okay. Just like when CV happened, everybody thought, oh, it's not going to be that bad. It's not going to be that bad. And then all of a sudden, we're all stuck in our home and we're all walking around in places, only able to go to a few places. They had caution tape across seeds and clothes. You couldn't even buy clothes at one point. And you think that that's not happening? Now they're treating other and anything kind of like what the previous thing happened. So I would keep your eyes open to what is going on with that for sure. And notice what people can say and what people can't. Pay attention to that. So thank you guys. Again, our normal show will resume tomorrow night with or without Dex. Again, everybody's got stuff going on. We're human beings as well. My wife, again, I don't know if people have, we'll post what it was periorbital something, but I know that there's homeopathic advice that some of you may have that you want to give me. And I think anything would be grateful right now, because the pressure on her eye is so bad that her blood vessels are all popped on one side. And then, of course, now it looks like there's another thing forming down below. So no fun. And it has been a really, really rough few days. So I thank you guys, and anybody that does pray. Thank you for the prayers, like Chad. Thank you, Lickenstein. I appreciate that. And everybody else. Cold compresses. Yeah. And at first she was hot compressing it, which again, at first we thought it was just a tiny sty. She hot compressed it for hours on end, and then she found out from the doctor that is really bad because that pulls everything out. And he said that she should have been doing it like 3 times a day for 5 minutes. She was doing it for hours and hours and hours. And of course, people are saying cold. Yeah. Well, we didn't know that, and we didn't think it was something that needed to be the ER, and then it got worse and worse and worse. So another thing to think about is any one of your family members could all of a sudden just have something stupid like this happen that ends up getting worse and worse and worse. You could get MRSA, staph, or any little thing, and it turns into a huge thing. I can't imagine if this happened with no access to antibiotics, which 97% of it comes from G. I could not imagine if this happened when there was no doctors, there was nobody to go see, and there was no internet to go look up, anything. That's what people don't realize. The tiniest thing could knock you out of service. And without all of the today's modern marvels, you are going to be absolutely up the creek. No paddle, pants down. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. And again, we will be putting out. I love all of the positive feedback on Dex's videos. Thank you guys. Again, I appreciate your all of your sweet prayers and everybody that automatically knew something was wrong. I appreciate that. And then, yeah. So thank you guys. Love you. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marf out.